Hey everybody, as promised, this is our first video for our new Vermintide II series. So for those of you who are new to the game or are still on the fence about it, Vermintide II is really a true sequel from 1 in that it builds very heavily on the previous game. The sort of basic combat flow and many of the basic tips, such as always be blocking, still apply. So as such, we're going to put up a link to our Combat Basics video from Vermintide 1. If you're completely new, you might want to watch that, because at least 85% of what we talked about there is still super valid, and we're not going to repeat it here. Beyond that, I have Lune here with me again to help us sort through the huge pile of new information in this massive game.
Huge doesn't begin to cover this complex game that we've got here. There are so many new ways that you can kill rats and the new chaos enemies in this, so the important place to start is how you deal with the Hordes. In Vermintide 1, this was a common strategy for Saltspire and Barden with their crossbows, because every time a Horde ran at you in a line, typically in closed areas like in the Dwarf DLC, Khazad Crow, well, you could just stand there, fire your crossbow with Mastercrafted and take them all out, but utilizing choke points has become vital. You will not succeed without doing this. In Vermintide 2, this game is very difficult to start with. It gets easier as you go on, but there are things like this that you need to know, and you need to learn them fast, or you're going to lose even on the easiest difficulty.
You have been totally thrown in on the deep end in this particular game, yeah. And the other part to it is that the Hordes are now very varied. You'll see the green-robed dudes that just happened there. Those are a new threat that we'll get to. There's dudes with shields. The Horde is much more heterogeneous this time around.
The addition of chaos means that you hit fewer targets per swing. A lot of personality in Vermintide 1 was that you were fighting an army of fodder. Well, now their role as fodder is even more realized. The Skaven are much weaker than Chaos. These guys bulk up, get in the way, and you need to funnel them, because they have a lot of new mechanics in place for them that the Skaven do not get to enjoy. As you can see, you want weapons that cleave the Horde, have good penetration.
Because of the way you can't always get directly into the middle the way you had before, being able to flank and being able to find your place where you need to be in the Horde is much more important. It's much less of a science and much more of an art now.
There are so many enemies that can pop into the middle of a Horde and upset the balance. Like the green-robed guys, they charge in through the ranks and are resistant to shoving, which is unheard of for Vermintide because you can typically push everything. Mm-hmm. They can kind of be shoved now, unlike in the closed betas, but, well, it's just one of many things that goes on. And if you cannot funnel enemies, like, say, a boss, like our new Storm Fiend boss is around, and they typically bring the Hordes with them. There's very rare that a boss will spawn and not get a supporting Horde. They're going to come from all angles, and you need to have that eye in the back of your head, because the enemy knows how to flank. They will make that conscious effort to get around you. You have to... In this case, if you cannot affect the boss, you've got to affect the Horde. You've got to do something to back up your team who may be focusing on that boss. Or covering their back in the case that you're in a multi-pronged situation.
This is also why it again becomes very important to strike, block, get into that rhythm. Play some of the music like Lune chooses for these videos if you need to get yourself thinking about it, because there will be some jerk who has been hard-coded to try to find your back. There will be some dick that sneaks up behind you.
There's always one. You have to treat
There's always one.
I emphasize this every time I can. You have to treat every single enemy as a dangerous threat. If they get agitated, you've got to kill them. And we see another open engagement, but it's all in a line. They came at us, and the team was spread out in a line. So that gives one person the opportunity to still get around them. They're trying to get around you, get around them. You've got to be aware.
Especially useful for those shield cats.
And because there's still going to be one guy who comes behind you.
No matter what you do.
We'll touch briefly on shields, a new addition. I did not devote a section entirely to them, but shields in Vermintide 1 were part of the concept art, but they never made it into the game, and modders eventually added it in. But there was no finesse to it, so Fat Shark decided for Vermintide 2 that Clan Rats, Chaos Marauders, and Storm Vermin would all get shields. Clan Rats with shields absorb about 2 hits, and then they get staggered, and then they die, because they're Skaven. They die. That's all they exist to do. Chaos Marauders, on the other hand, they block from all angles. Storm Vermin too. And as you can see right here, you've got to keep an eye on your surroundings, because there was a gas rat behind us while we're facing down the horde in front of us. And you see how we're maneuvering around. But back on shields. Shields are very dangerous. Only a few weapons can knock them clean out of the enemy's hands. That's why you need to be shoving just as much as you're attacking. This is very important to understand when you're using fast hit weapons like, say, dual daggers. And one other thing there, you see a red shield pop up when I hit that guy. That means he took 0 damage. Now you have a very clear indicator of what works and not. Now on to the bombs. This is something that absolutely bothers me that I see many people doing, and that is...
This is also super changed from the first game.
I would not throw a firebomb at Storm Vermin because they're armored, and firebombs are for hordes of fodder. However, since I'm playing with bots, I believe that throwing that bomb has absolutely saved their lives, because you might have noticed there were berserkers in the midst, dual axe wielders who were charging up on us.
Correct.
Typically, though, if you get a patrol, you need to throw a frag bomb or have a good team, because I have bots, I decided to throw the firebomb. This is right here where you will see the fragmentation bomb in effect, and this is also something with shields that you need to know. They can block any attack, and typically when they're in their animations of blocking, they block from every angle. You have got to treat Storm Vermin with respect if they're carrying a shield, or do your best to avoid that patrol now, because that's how they balanced it, and I don't quite agree with it, and I think the Storm Vermin with shields are a little bit overtuned. This is just the reality of the matter.
Yeah, the basic duality that you're looking for here is that the fire bombs are now for problematic hordes, which will attempt to flank around. There are about 3 or 4 waves to each in particular horde now, instead of the 1 to 2 in Vermintide 1. The fire bombs will basically delete a horde, and will also delete the annoying people in the middle of them, like berserkers and the light shield bearers. The frag bombs...
Never, ever throw fire bombs at a boss. It does not do anything unless you have an orange trait. Unless you have an orange trait called shrapnel, which means affected by a bomb takes extra damage. However, another thing that really bothers me, which in addition to people throwing fire bombs at bosses and wasting it, is also throwing bombs at hordes at the very front of the horde that's oncoming when they should pull out their ranged weapon and start thinning it out. Don't do that. That is a complete waste of a game-saving item. Here on potion usage, however...
Yeah, potions are more useful here than they were ever in Vermintide 1.
I'm gonna surprise people by saying the speed potion actually is good in this game, unlike in V1.
Believe it or else.
Well, I mean, the obvious fact is it's not obscuring my vision.
It also allows you to stay more mobile in a game where mobility has suddenly become a premium. The strength is still useful for exactly what it was good for before, in hitting things very hard when they have a lot of health. There's also the new concentration potion, which allows you to
Kool-Aid.
Yeah, it's Kool-Aid. You get your purple drink, man. You just drink that Kool-Aid. You can use your career active ability as much as you damn well please for the most part.
It just charges up really fast, and it's good on characters like the Waystalker or Saltspire who have powerful actives that kill a lot of things at once.
It's one of the most easy to use potions, so start with that if you're unsure, just to convince yourself that potions are actually good now.
Crowd control has changed very much in Vermintide 2. They didn't want someone who equipped with a shield not doing anything but shield bashing with the charge attack. The charge attacks now include powered up attacks for fighting single targets. You have the regular ability to shove and bash as much as you want, and you can block cancel for those endless shield bashes if you really want. But you now have the ability to be more mobile and do more damage. The scope of the game has changed where this is a very good change, and I know some people upset about the shield not being spam crowd control, but there's a lot of other weapons that also do that same thing, and you need to hit as much as you can and kill as much as you can. You can't just be on one end.
The increased mobility of our controllers is a absolutely critical change due to how much the game has changed. I guarantee you that if you get sucked into fighting a horde for 5-7 seconds, you're going to turn around and find an entire wall of flesh, be it Nurglite or Skaven, breathing straight down your neck.
The shield of course gives you the highest shoving strength, so you can knock pretty much anything you want around. And having this kind of control really helps on Champion Plus games if you're not good at surviving or not taking hits.
And to be clear, if you're not the host, it's practically guaranteed that you will have to play defensively and rely on something like a shield at some point or another, simply because of the latency.
Unfortunately, you can't block flamethrowers with your shield, but you can still block rattling gunner fire.
And that feels amazing. It's also just absolutely brilliant to be able to push around all of the new big enemies. Back in Vermintide 1, the only thing that wasn't considered man-sized, it was Roger, the Rat Ogre. Now, we have a bunch of new enemies on the Chaos side, none of which are man-sized, and it still feels great to bully around somebody who's 8 feet tall.
There are a bunch of new enemies added in, and Chaos has a lot of Storm Vermin variants, like the Chaos Mauler, who's armored on the head and hits just as hard, and he is a wall of meat himself. The Berserker is one of the most dangerous new enemies in the game. Your strategy is to just dash to the side, or dodge to the side. The Chaos Warrior is fully armored and requires a concentrated effort to bring down, and he is a big Hulk that's designed to upset the fight, and you're supposed to work around him a little bit like a mini-boss. And they can come in war parties and patrols just like Storm Vermin do, these Maulers and Warriors.
And usually those war parties have a bunch of shield bearers with them as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Don't mess around.
The Life Leeches and the Chaos Sorcerers encompass Life Leeches, which are the Chaos Disabler. Their teleport does damage if they pop in next to you, and they just grab and disable and drag someone out. The Blightstormer conjures up a tornado, which will drag in enemies and yourself and toss you around. After they cast it, they will teleport out of bounds, which I take umbrage with, but we'll see how that pans out at some point.
The only place that you get a real tell on where the Blightstormer is when they are casting their Vortex, because they have to shoot out a little bit of magic to the place they're targeting at. They also need line of sight to cast the Vortex, but they don't.
But that line of sight can be miles out.
Yes.
Yeah. The Plague Monks are functionally identical to the Berserker enemies. They charge in, do a lot of damage, and just get aggressive. Now, this is something I put in the video because I feel personally that this is something very important to understand that the Chaos enemies do, which the Skaven do not. I can understand that they're a little bit slower, especially Chaos Warriors and Maulers, but every Chaos enemy has this penchant for sliding around and gliding towards you, no matter how far you get. And Chaos Maulers are the biggest offenders of this because they have slid around corners in attack animations at me many times, and this compounds the challenge of you hitting much fewer of them and why choke points become vastly important.
Be aware that footage was while Lune was hosting a local game. That was not latency.
This is something that I was asked to cover briefly, is that there are only 3 weapons which benefit from holding charge. The Rapier does more damage the longer you hold it, which is good for headshots because that's Saltspire's thing, especially as the Witch Hunter captain. The Pick, of course, returning from Vermintide 1, you can notice that there is a difference in the attack when he shifts his arm upwards, and that's how you know he's doing more damage. And the third weapon would be the Spear. It doesn't affect the damage when you hold it, but as you hold it, you gain a subtle movement speed increase in addition to the burst of speed that helps you close in on enemies. That's just a brief thing to cover. In terms of the careers added, 3 for every character, I came to the conclusion that there was a melee, ranged, and team focus. And the quickest example to give is Corellian's Waystalker is ranged focus, as she does not suffer the penalty of ranged damage fall off. and she gets 50% more ammo. The Handmaiden is the team focus because it's based around stamina regeneration aura and having an uninterruptible revive, which is likely to change because it doesn't even work. And the Shade has built-in backstabbery from Vermintide 1, making it the melee-focused class. You can see that in the talents if you choose to play these classes as well. And every character has very obvious designs based on that, such as Kruger's starting class Mercenary is entirely melee-focused because he gains cleave bonuses, so he hits more enemies. And he gets Pace Strikes, which increases attack speed when he hits multiple enemies. Moving on to a brief touch, because this game has become wildly popular, more so than Vermintide 1 could ever have hoped to be. One thing I wanted to say with regard to playing online is, the golden rule is to always follow and support the host, because they have the best chance of surviving because they're hosting. Latency is a big bitch in this game, and when you play quick play, it behooves you to work together, because if you complete a full book run, you are guaranteed a general's box, which is the 5th of 6 tiers of quality loot boxes that you can obtain for good loot later on.
Yeah, we will have a more in-depth video on how the loot works in this game, but for right now, the more bling your box is, the better. And if you work together with the host, you're much more likely to get bling on your box.
If the host doesn't know something, just tell them.
Yeah.
And as you can see, there was another very good use of bombs, because there was a horde, then a patrol showed up, and we've thinned the horde, and now you can focus on the storm vermin for a moment.
That is precisely what the bombs are fantastic at. With the way the game now throws multiple different threat profiles at you very, very fluently, just getting rid of one of those threat profiles makes the other threat profile less than half as dangerous, because you can focus.
This is where I'm talking about storm vermin shields. They have this brief stagger where they take one hit, then go back to blocking. I still feel they need some work, but you have to understand that when you attack them, well, it builds up over time.
And good luck trying to cleave through it.
Yeah. Hero power is the additional layer of balance on top of individual item balance. It affects everything you do in the game, and it's why producing videos without mods on individual weapons would be a crapshoot, because everyone's experience is not going to be consistent. As you can see, it affects the damage you deal, the number of enemies you can even hit, and your ability to stagger them. And the breakpoints are all completely unknown. It's still a vague number, capped on difficulties, as you can see below.
The function for the caps per difficulty is to keep you from going in and one-shotting things with new players, but the functional point here is that the game will be getting easier up until those breakpoints. So if you feel the game is too difficult right now, keep at it. And keep experimenting and keep messing with things. We're not going to be able to feed you all of the information that just deterministically on a silver platter this time. We can give you the starting point. You're going to have to walk your own path with this game.
Hero power level is determined by level and the items you have, of course. You can only get items up to power 100 on Recruit, 200 on Veteran, and 300 from the Commendation boxes and Champion and Legend chests. This is a big deal because the item power level starts low and increases only by opening new boxes, and the range of item power level, as was in the subtitle, is within a plus or minus 10 range of the highest scene level, and crafting does not increase that. So you just have to keep opening boxes and save commendation boxes for when you hit 200. On to Heroic Deeds, these are supposed to be the analog for the bounty board from Vermintide 1, but it's very limited right now, and as of this video being made, it's bugged, and only the host gets the reward, and I've heard some people don't even get the reward at all. But they add a lot of stipulations.
We'll update you in the description if that changes.
They add a lot of stipulations, like no pickups, instant death, so no KOs, no white health or anything like that getting picked up. Replacing a lot of enemies with more specials. It's It's all about the challenge this time around, and the rewards seem kind of limiting if you ask me, but, well, it's there.
They end up being guaranteed boxes, which will be amazing if you're up to it. But if you're not, it's gonna be a bad time.
You need specific items to craft. If you decide to use one of the blacksmith's templates, you need a specific item, as shown here, and you can craft any quality. It's random and it's weighted towards greens and blues. But even if you get those, you can still upgrade that to orange with one of these pages.
For what it's worth, crafting is king. This is why you don't need to worry about loot too much in this game. Just keep playing, keep opening boxes, keep getting that gear score up. And once the gear score gets up to a point where you're comfortable with it and you have a whole bunch of stuff, then you can just melt down, salvage all of the junk that you don't care about, and then you'll have a situation like you're seeing here, where you have a ton of resources and you can make literally anything you want.
The point of crafting is only to build up other characters, as one of the things you should focus on is get one character to max level and do as much as you can with that. Then you'll have the leeway to go back and play the other characters.
And even if you want to mix it up, even then you don't lose that much, if anything. Simply because as long as you're opening boxes that increase your gear score, you're doing great. You're doing it right.
To end this video off, and to point out the amazing Twitch integration that Vermintide II has come with, I will not be producing more videos until mod support is available, until the chaotic balance situation stabilizes. I do not feel that I can produce the quality obligated as seen in the Vermintide 1 playlist without these proper means. So I, of course, advertise the Twitch thing as a way to, come follow, and you'll be able to see more Vermintide from there until such a time where it's possible to make good videos. The addition of an anti-cheat prevents all such things for now, and Fatshark has delayed dedicated servers and mod support for an unforeseeable amount of time. We don't know when that's going to happen, but hopefully it will provide me the means to make stellar videos and to fill out this playlist in the future.
We're going to be looking for any means we can do that, because we love this game. We love you guys. We love everything you've brought to the channel, and so we're gonna keep up with it. But right now, like Lune said, we just need better tools. We just need better tools to make things clear and make things obvious to people. So until then,
thank you for watching, everybody.
Yep. Until then, thank you for watching, and take good care of yourselves.